The Test Hangover by Carly Winetrobe, Learning Specialist at the Think Tank. Video by Jenna Grimes. Illustrations by Jessica Plug. One of the topics that come up almost 100% of the time when I'm meeting one-on-one with students is tests. Test taking, test grades, the good, the bad, and the ugly, studying for tests, when your next test is, why are tests horrible? Right after a difficult test, we've all asked ourselves, and undoubtedly our friends, this same question. What just happened? I like to help my students brainstorm to make sure they don't have another test hangover, complete with regret and shame, again. Now I know what you're thinking. How do you avoid a test hangover? If you and I were meeting one-on-one, we'd have a conversation about this dreadful test hangover, except probably without this camera and this whiteboard. One of the best ways to know why you studied what you studied is to understand how you did it. It's all about thinking about your thinking, the metacognition. Tip number 1, know when your test is. If you can't do step 1, pause this video right now and find your syllabus. But obviously you're still watching, so congrats. You at least know the date of your next exam. Write it down. Set it as the lock screen on your phone. Do what you need to do to remember this test. Tip number 2. Give yourself plenty of time to study. We've all heard that one before, but there's more to it than meets the eye, or brain. Ever wonder why phone numbers are 7 digits long? Our brains can only hold an average of 5 to 9 pieces of information in our short-term memory at a time. Can you imagine only knowing 5 to 9 things on your test because you only studied just a few hours beforehand? You didn't give yourself enough time for the information to go from your short-term memory to your long-term. The easy answer to this problem is time. You need more of it, and you need to use it effectively. Tip number 3. Use your study time efficiently and effectively. Research shows that repetition without intention to learn doesn't facilitate learning. Use the repetition purposefully and pay attention to what you're learning. Use pictures and sentences that are applicable to your own life. You'll remember the information better. Find your own examples and how they relate to you. Can you draw and label your own picture of a stratovolcano for your oceanography class? Read text out loud, instead of in your head, where you may or may not be thinking about where you're eating dinner instead of the differences between the present and preterite tense. This helps increase the capacity and duration of items held in your short-term memory. Tip number 4. Create concept maps. Research shows that concept maps are more effective for knowledge retention and transfer than activities like reading, attending lecture, and participating in class discussions. Now, don't get me wrong. These are still important. But making a concept map that shows how things are related to one another helps you remember the material and make connections, literally. Tip number 5. Prepare as if your test was all short answer. Try answering questions in short answer or essay format, whether someone is quizzing you or you're just asking yourself. You'll find out you have a deeper understanding of the material and you won't just be relying on multiple choice options. Tip number 6. Don't study in the basement. At least don't spend all of your studying time in the basement. A psychology study that was mentioned in the New York Times explains that changing the room where you study can help you remember information more than just sitting in one location. Well, lucky for you, the U of A has over 8 libraries, 2 student unions, and countless places for you to switch up your study space, whether you want to stay inside or soak up some vitamin D. So, there are lots of things you can't control when it comes time for your next test, like the professor, the content of the class, the pace of the class, but you can control how you choose to study. So, what are you going to do?